Okay, so no, because I was forget. We read this still first, even though it's not the same thing about before we even call the meeting to order. Because it's still noted first before we call it to order.
We may be wrong. I don't know. This is where Perna's not here, and Perna would be able to tell us that. I think this is how it was last month.
Okay.
I think we still do.
Okay,
Perfect.
perfect.
At the very beginning.
All right. Hi, everyone. So first, we're going to read the note at the beginning that cites that citizens can attend in person in meeting room C, the first floor of the Rochester Public Library, or view a live stream of the meeting on the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/user/roch, ROCH, pub library. A recording will be available after the meeting on the city's website, rochestermn.gov/agendas. We are now going to move on to the public comment period, and I know that we do have public comment.
We did receive some written public comment. The policy that we have is it needs to be submitted at least 24 hours in advance, and it was right after the 24 hours. So I have responded to the person indicating that it will be in the packet for next month and be forwarded to you by email as well.
But I'm also going to see the floor in case there's anyone who has any public comment, and if not, we will move along to our call to order. All right, so I will officially call this library board meeting to order, and we're going to take roll call. You can just say aye, even though you are present, just so that it's recorded. And where's Brenna?
Brenna is out of the country right now, and we'll be returning, but we have Kate here taking minutes, so we do have minutes.
Perfect. So Stephanie.
Hi.
Ollie.
Hello.
Steve.
Here.
Nick.
Here.
Chloe. Hi. Rowie.
Aye.
Adam.
Aye.
Erin. Hi. And I'm also here, Antonia. So we have quorum. This meeting is officially called to order. So first item is the approval of the agenda. Any questions? All right, then do I have a motion?
I motion.
Thank you. Do we
Second.
have? Thank you, Nick. So now we'll just take votes. Can we just show of hands?
I think we can say aye.
And then any dissenters can just say nay. Perfect. So all in favor of approval of the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, the agenda is approved. That motion passes. Next, we have the consensus agenda. And I would like to note that there has been an update. And that's specific to the feedback received from the Friends regarding the library space policy. That comment was not included in the notes, and that has been updated.
The foundation wasn't.
The foundation, sorry.
In the minutes for August 17th.
Thank you. If you guys recall last week, the foundation highlighted that we had some error or some potential for misunderstanding regarding the Friends book sale in the policy, so that has been addressed. So approval of the minutes, also noting that that has been included. Any motion?
I would move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you very much, Steve. And do we have a second? Thank you, Stephanie. All in favor of approving the consensus agenda, can you say aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Any dissenters? No? Motion passes. The consensus agenda is approved. Now we're going to move on to President's business. And the President would like to comment that for anybody observing, this is like a masterclass in how to do it, because I feel like you have to help me correct it. So it's an educational opportunity.
Together,
right? This is my second year, but still. So first we have the foundation report. And I know that Brenda is not able to come in person today, but I do have updates, so I will read them. Unless actually Debbie, can you get someone to read them for her? Okay. And I will read Brenda's notes. They're working on the silent auction and the wine and wit event. And as she said, nothing new. That is it. So any questions can be directed to Brenda. We can move on now to the Friends report.
I'm Val Kalaszewski, president of the Friends of the Library, and in the month of August, the bookstore made just under $7,000. It was $6,990. We still have a lot of puzzles, so if you like jigsaw puzzles, stop by the bookstore. They also had a poetry sale in August. The Elton Hills Bridge reopening community event that was held at the end of August at 125 Live. The Friends had a table there. We sold books, but more importantly, we handed out brochures and bookmarks and coupons for the bookstore. Because we get a lot of people in the bookstore that say, oh, we never knew you have a bookstore here in the library, and it's only been there since 1995. So we're continually trying to keep getting the word out. There is a bookstore at the library. We handed out about 90 brochures and coupons. We're tracking how many of those we get back. And we made $100 in selling books while we were out there too. Membership drive letters have gone out for people to renew or to sign up for a Friends membership. Members get a 20% discount in the bookstore. They get admission to our preview sale night, the night before the auditorium sale opens, and an invitation to our annual meeting the last Monday in January. If you didn't receive a letter, or if you've never been a Friends before and you want to become a Friends member, I did bring brochures, and you can, I can get one for you, or you can stop by the bookstore, or you can also sign up online. And again, all that money from memberships goes right back to the library. And then you get benefits as well. Levels start at $15. And any membership purchased now through the end of December are good through December 31st of 2023. So you get a couple extra months on your membership if you sign up now. We're also looking for probably 4 new board members. We have to have a minimum of 10. And looking at whose terms are expiring. So if you have any buddy that you know who might be interested in joining the Friends Board, we're a lot less formal than this organization. Let us know. If you're interested in science fiction and fantasy books, games, puzzles, DVDs, the first full week in October, the bookstore is going to have a sale on that genre. And then our auditorium sale is the second full weekend in October, the 14th through the 16th. And we're hoping to make, about $6,000 on that sale. So the most expensive book will be $2. We move a lot of books. Come in and shop. And another little tidbit that I learned recently, somebody asked me about how many books get donated weekly. What's an average ballpark? Ballpark, it's 2,500 books per week get donated from the community into the Rochester Public Library. And then, the really good ones get added to the collection. Some of them get sold online. Can be, we've had one book, I think our most expensive book we sold online was like $1,000 or something. We had treasures like that on a rare occasion in the bookstore, in the auditorium sale. So we move a lot of books on a weekly basis.
What portion of books go into our circulation? Like how many, what percentage, Amy?
At the end of the year, we provide a report as to the value of the books that are added based on the numbers. It is a small percent, but in terms of the overall value, it's
over $100,000
is pretty typical.
Wow.
If you look at what the average price of the title of book that or DVD or whatever.
Wow, that's awesome.
I, as a fiction person, really appreciate the donations because it helps with those hopeless.
That's the end of Friends Report. Any questions?
No, but thank you for such a comprehensive and insightful report. I really appreciate it.
I'm a details person.
I love it.
Could you send us like the summary information about what to do if somebody wanted to be a board member? So that we could pass that on to others, maybe?
I will make a note. And do you want me to just send it to the distribution list, or should I forward it through like Karen and she can forward it on?
That's probably easiest. I have that. Yeah,
Well, I can reply all because I get the agenda.
it goes to, I think a lot of me.
More people, okay, I will send it to you and, okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, if not, I will note that 6.C is our Selco report. We do not have a Selco report as we do not have a Selco representative. And as I learned yesterday, that was something I needed to reach out about, and I thought someone else was doing it, so that was my bad. So I will say that I'll be reaching out to all of you seeking a Selco rep. And we can talk about removing someone, you know, who volunteers for that position from another committee to make it work. But we do need to have representation. So if everyone can just think about whether they have bandwidth or interest to be our Selco rep, I'll be reaching out soon, so. It involves attending the Selco meeting. And I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's not monthly. It's quarterly. Yeah, it's a different cadence. So it's not as much pressure as one may think. And I think it's always really interesting to learn about what is happening at the other library locations across the, you know, broader community. So that's the way to sell it.
Danae, what time of the day is that quarterly meeting?
That's a really good question. Do you remember that meeting?
It's
I
in the
think
evening.
it's 5 o'clock, or they usually serve dinner. I think it's 5 or 6. And the board for the Selco cells is evolving, and there will be fewer overall board members, so that the focus of the meetings is going to be more clear and less chaotic. At least that's the goal. They're in the middle of a structure
Point, is it?
So
No.
this is a
That's all
very
set.
interesting time to be on the Selco board.
And I will say that I think the intra-Selco relationships are critical as well to the success of our library and also the broader community. So it's a really, really good position.
Would our representation, should one of us go, are we more observing or are we supposed to be active participants?
You're an active board member, so you help make decisions for Selco.
Okay.
So trying to hang the bait and see if we get any bites. So
And it's at 5:30 PM is where they have it. And they also, yes,
Is there a day of the week they always have it, or?
I think it must be the last Tuesday of, again, on a quarterly basis.
I'm sorry, where is it?
It's at the Selco office, so that's Southeastern Libraries Cooperating.
Off of Valley High and 19th?
Yes.
and here's what we'll do. We will actually ask answers to all of these questions because these are very valid. So I'm glad we brought it up. So date, time, typical length of meeting, location, we'll include all of that. So you have that
It's
information.
main missions.
And the main mission.
It's.
Yeah, I'm, I don't know a lot about.
Date, time, location, like meeting.
What one?
If there are no active
Yes.
participants, I can do it. It's right next to my house, so,
Is it?
yeah,
Okay.
so,
Actually, very convenient.
yes.
It was meant to be.
It was all lining up.
I'm still
Quarterly
gonna put it
next to
out
my
there, so
house.
everyone who has interest has opportunity to respond, but everyone can hear Huawei, that's right next to his home, so that would be. Can we like nix that from the video? That's actually a terrifying bit of information to share in the video.
It's not right next, but it's close.
In a general area within a 5.5 mile radius.
It's in Northwest, that's all we'll say.
Robert was just telling untruths to get the position. His home is nowhere near the
That's right.
spot. Okay, we're gonna move on to the youth rep report, and we have four of us today.
So I guess kind of a lot has happened since I've been last year with the Youth Commission, unfortunately. Mary Gorfine, our leader, she retired and they attempted to find a new person. And as far as I know, there has not been a new person. And then also the Mayor's Youth Council kind of dissolved and they want to merge the two. But I don't know how they're gonna do that. We have 2 meeting times. One of them was yesterday and one of them is this Saturday to try and figure out what the 2 groups will look like in the future and how they will be led. And I'm gonna be attending the one on Saturday to see what happens. So we'll see where things end up with the commission. But as of now, there is not really anything going on. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
And is there any support that you need as you guys navigate this?
I don't know. I mean, it would be nice to have like a leader, but like I need to attend the meeting to see what they're thinking because I was on the exec board, but like I have no information as to what is happening with them. So
Okay.
we'll see. Yeah.
And the lack of leadership, is that something that our operations team was resolved?
The youth commission is a county, not, not. We've just been lucky enough to have kind of this crossover rep to provide a youth perspective. That's getting a broader perspective in the community, but, and I should know, I knew that Mary had retired, but I don't have further details on.
Yeah,
Was it with the youth commission?
Yeah, I don't, like, it was weird, like, they wanted to merge the mayors, but then they only wanted to have like 20 people on the whole thing, and we're like, well, like 40 people in the youth commission, like, we can't just cut out half the group, because it's like supposed to be inclusive, and so I don't know what's going on, and there was like a lot of like, yeah, there was some not super great stuff going on, I think, but.
So what's the overlap of the youth commission and then the specific scope as it pertains to the library? Because I know that typically they would, utilize the library space for activities and events. Is there?
I don't know, because I'm also the representative for the Olmsted Environmental Commission. So I go to that meeting after I go to this one usually. So like I don't know why we do that, but it just I think happened for the last few years.
Do we have a library team member who provides support to our youth board member? I feel like there might be an opportunity here for some mentorship, but kind of help navigating what sounds like a complex situation. So if somebody could just like support Chloe, even in understanding what's happening, I think that would be really helpful if someone has. Because I don't think I fully understand the overlap, and Chloe, I want to make sure you feel supported. So is that okay, Karen?
I will follow up with services.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions for Chloe? Great, we appreciate the update. We now will move on to the Personnel Committee update, and so Adam, I will look to you for that.
Yeah, thank you. So a brief update, but I think as everybody knows, the Personnel Committee is involved with the yearly review for the library director, brings the yearly review back to this board, and the team votes on it, and then we perform the review with the library director individually. So with a new library director this year, we have a great opportunity to provide a mid-year review of how things are going as Karen starts her new role. So currently the Personnel Committee is working on gathering feedback from a group of representatives within the library and within city administration. And I believe the request window for that closes at the end of this week. So we should have updated information from them soon, and the Personnel Committee will go back and provide that information directly to Karen. I think, Antonia, one of the things would be for perhaps at the next meeting, do we treat that as an informational item? Or I can just provide the feedback to the board, or is it something that we would treat as a standard yearly review process? I think I would recommend that it's just an informational item.
Okay.
That the Personnel Committee has met with Karen, provided feedback.
Okay.
Bring it back to the board.
Yeah, as an informational item, sure. For a second, I thought you were recommending like publicizing the review, so I appreciate the clarification. Yeah, I think it's helpful to have that. And I also cannot believe it's been 6 months. So that's terrifying. Thank you so much, Adam, for the update.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'm certainly available, but.
All right. Thank you very much. So we're now moving on to new business, specifically our freedom to read resolution. Karen, I'm going to pass over to you. I also have questions and I'm excited about this discussion, so.
All right, so it is Banned Books Week. Yeah. celebrating. Again, last month, Kim did a great presentation on intellectual freedom and supporting the freedom to read. And one of the tasks we were given was to create this resolution, really proclaiming the board's support of individuals' rights to read when they so choose. So a draft resolution is attached for your review and was included in your packet. I welcome questions. Again, we can modify. Just because it's banned books week doesn't mean we stop celebrating the freedom to read after this week. So I know we were hoping to kind of time it so that we would be adopting a final one the week of banned books week, but I don't think there's anything wrong with this conversation continuing because there are lots of libraries that have been facing challenges, more so recently this year as opposed to other years. And we're really fortunate to be supported by a board that really embodies that belief that we support the freedom to read.
You need a motion? What do you need?
We would need a motion to approve. Yes.
Before a
but-
motion, I want to make sure there's space for conversation. Like, are there any concerns? Are there any challenges?
I think we do, don't we make a motion?
Make the motion and then discuss it.
And then
Discussion.
Thank you.
I have to review every meeting.
I feel like I should just like write some notes to myself before every meeting because I just do forget. All right,
Okay.
so
I move that we accept the freedom to read, is it a resolution? As a board, as the library board.
I'd second that.
Now you can say, is there any questions or discussion?
Stephanie, I was wondering when that comes because that was very confusing. Okay.
So hard.
But we also don't follow like Robert's rules necessarily. We like do our own modified version of it, so.
His grandson is rewriting them.
I look forward to that.
You just blew my mind.
Oh, well. All right.
I sat through a whole weekend of like, do you know there's a group that sits around and talks about Robert's rules locally?
No.
Yeah,
you blew my
Good
mind.
grief.
Yeah. I should attend that training, Holly.
I did, and it was.
Send it to me. So Stephanie, thank you for the motion.
Cheat sheets. I'll see if I can make a couple.
Even the cheat sheets are kind of incomprehensible as it pertains to like modern life and how we approach it. But anyway, I digress. We had our motion, we had our second. Are there any comments, questions, concerns?
Can't put it in the board packets. Can we have the language back up again, just so we can?
And if I remember from our conversation last month, that reconsideration policy right now goes to the director, right? And it doesn't go beyond that?
There's a three-step process. It goes first to the selector who made the selection of the item. And if the person receiving the response wants to appeal it, they can appeal it to the director.
Okay,
If they don't like the director's response, they can appeal it to the board.
okay.
So it is possible for the board to address intellectual freedom concern, but it will have gone through two vetting processes before it comes here.
But this resolution doesn't go into the specifics of that, or the mechanics of that. It simply says, removing materials prevents community members from maintaining that essential access. So we don't get into the nitty gritty. We don't need to.
This is not a policy, this is a statement of.
That's not a part of this
Yeah,
specifically.
that's really our statement. I mean, really, in the end, we support everyone's right to access information and we be more.
Right, but we all know that there's a,
Language
I was actually
we
happy that
oppose
Nick brought it up
banning,
because
but we all know that there's a process available for anyone that wants to challenge, right?
Correct, yes.
We don't need to
Available
say
on our
that
website
specifically.
and the forms available on our website.
It's already in place.
I hear what you're saying, Nick, and
It exists now.
yes, it does exist.
We don't have to revamp that. Right, okay.
Correct.
But I feel like one thing I was craving a bit was a slightly stronger stance. I'm not saying it isn't strong. I just feel like, to your point, we believe in intellectual freedom and we believe in ensuring that there's access to the materials and that we do not necessarily, well, we do not advocate for removal of materials. So I was just wondering if we could tweak and refine and kind of reshape just a little bit to emphasize that. For example, in our very first opening statement, the first thing we say is that we provide exceptional library service. And I felt like we could start strong with, we're committed to upholding the intellectual freedom of our community members. Like, start with what it is that we're really seeking to do with the resolution. And I feel like in our resolves, in our resolutions at the very bottom, we don't talk about not removing materials. And I think that is an important and very decisive statement. But I want to make sure everyone's comfortable with that. And then to Nick's point, would we add that and note that there is a process for requesting removal, or I don't know.
Madam President, what you need to do at this point is to offer a friendly amendment to the motion.
But I don't have any direct recommendations just yet. Like, I don't have an actual amendment to the language. I just want to make it conversation for the entire board.
Just so clear, I wasn't saying that we needed to debate adding that there is a policy for appeal. I mean, it already exists.
Yes.
And we can guide people that want to use that because it's already here. But the term intellectual freedom is not there.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree.
It is.
That's a very strong.
It's in the resolution.
It's there. It's just not the opening phrase.
Is the phrase there? Maybe I'm missing it.
I think part of the reason we're struggling, this format seems very inaccessible to me. And does it need to be in this type of format? What Antonia said, the 3 sentences she said gets us farther than what we've got on the screen, in my opinion. How did we come to this format? Maybe it's.
Erin, are you asking maybe a statement versus a resolution?
I just find, perhaps, yes. I just find this format, whereas, result, I find that inaccessible to the common myself person.
So I think it's modeled typically how like city language is typically written, whereas, you know.
We have to follow that? Do we not have to follow it?
I don't think we have to follow it.
We could keep it and accompany it with a statement.
Right.
Just that you have the formal process and then you have the translation of it into accessible language. But I think it's really important that you bring up accessibility. Sorry.
If it comes off as kind of more informal than this, it might, well, therefore lack a little strength.
Gravitas.
But I think we accompany the gravitas. We could accompany gravitas with accessibility. So maybe we do both. We make sure that we have a resolution refined and amended slightly to emphasize our key points, and then accompany it with a statement that we can release that makes it more succinct.
One way might be to put a whereas as a banner, and then all of these points without the whereas, but as bullets. Would that be more, do you think that would be easier for people to read? Do you think they get distracted by all the whereases?
I respect and appreciate that kind of meeting in the middle, but I feel like then it removes some of the gravitas of a typical resolution, how it's constructed, and then still may be a little bit inaccessible to some members of our community. So I feel like if we're going to go for gravitas, go for it. Write a resolution how they're written, but make sure that we translate it for everyone. I think, you know, when we talk about how to make language accessible, is it, someone correct me, reading at a 3rd grade level? Like, that's how it needs to be written to be accessible to a full community?
I've heard 5th, I've heard 8, I've heard 6.
The average newspaper is written at a 5th to 6th grade level. Back in the day, at least, the Wall Street Journal was written at an 8th grade level, which was really pretty intense. Military textbooks and handbooks are written at a 4th grade level.
Could I make a suggestion to this? Just,
Sure.
I think from what I'm hearing is perhaps we just remove the lines that relate to policy and operations of the library and keep the lines that are related to this statement. So things about exceptional library service, collection for community members, that can go. freedom to read is essential to democracy. That seems like a big idea you want to keep. Privacy seems like a big idea. Freedom is in the Constitution, big idea. Challenges to books interfere with the library's ability to provide materials. That can go. The library's mission, honestly, could probably go, no offense, very important, but that could probably go because it's specific to this library. And then the whereas, the resolved, those keep. Does that make sense? So if it's related to the operations or the policy, that can go, but if it's related to the big idea and the statement you're trying to make, you can keep, and that would get us down to 6 lines, I think.
I would say I don't want to debate too much, but I want to challenge the removal of the mission. I think it's important to root our personal freedom in the mission. And I think it's connected to our priority of access to an inclusive collection of materials.
I think the irony here is, who is this directed towards, right? Ideally, it's directed for all folks in the community to read this, but if we're writing this message specifically for folks who are against the freedom to read, are they going to read all of that in the first place? Or is a statement more adequate to achieve that point?
We're not necessarily trying to resolve this at this meeting, are we?
I think we wanted to, this handbook is coming up.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify though, because we have 3 things that are now being circulated, that we're now discussing. We're talking about 1, the edits to strengthen the language in the resolution. We're also discussing whether we want to accompany the resolution as it's structured with a statement. And then we're talking about accessibility of language. So I just feel like we do need to make decisions on whether we want to ask for amendments for each of those items.
I will throw in here that a formal resolution is going to be formal and it is going to be very different than a very accessible statement or a t-shirt or a poster or a flyer. So I think there are 2 different things, and we could do 2 completely different things, but perhaps a rewritten resolution to be brought back to the next meeting, highlighting some of the points that you mentioned, and then even a separate whether it's a press release or a poster or a sign or something that's the more user-friendly, or a web page that's more user-friendly with that user language.
Is that in time for what?
So we are in Banned Books Week, so we are delayed anyhow in this process. And again, I will contend that this should be talked about, celebrated, supported year-round. I think starting the conversation this week is fine, and continuing the conversation multiple months is fine, because I think it reiterates that this board truly supports this community and their access to information of all sorts. And I think that's an important message.
So go ahead, Nick. No, you go ahead.
Would it complicate things a little bit, since we're talking about a common language, to have at the top of that a few simple sentences about our values, and then say, therefore, or however you might make the transition from that simple paragraph into the whereas, so that the very first few sentences are saying exactly, you can, if you want to use intellectual freedom, or you can think of something else, but that's just that we value the access to a variety of opinions, blah, 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 and put that simply right at the top. And then we go to the where, we're going to stick with the whereas, because you put the common language there for people to see very clearly. And then if you want to get into the whereas, okay, but we're saying the same thing essentially.
So basically you want a preamble.
I'm not suggesting, I guess.
Right, a preamble that's
very
in
clear.
2 or 3 sentences says what everything else says.
Yeah.
Well,
And, yeah.
Just a thought.
I agree with that. Like, I think a lot of Banned books kind of pertain towards like a lot of, at least like the books that I see that have been banned, at least, or in schools and libraries, are often like youth books or young adult books. And so they're ones that like are targeted towards our audience that we're being limited to read. And so I think having something that is more like applicable to a teenager or a middle schooler at the front, like they could read that. And then, cause like I see the whereas, and if I was like in the library and I saw that, I would just be like, no, I'm not going to read that. And so I think having something at the top would be helpful in reaching the wider audience of the youth and people that maybe like wouldn't want to read that.
Use words as diversity, access in that statement before we even get to this. Put it down right away.
I have a proposal that I think combines everything. So just hear me out. Given that we're already in banned books week, so any changes to the resolution will not actually go into effect until the next meeting, which will be after banned books week. Do we feel like we want to ask for a 2 to 3 sentence statement that can actually go out at this time that affirms our commitment to intellectual freedom and access to a diverse catalog collection of materials, and then work to refine the resolution to do what we have kind of discussed in terms of weeding out things that are operational, making it slightly stronger, since that will then be something that we keep and put on the site.
Would we include that statement in the final product, or would that be something?
We can certainly accompany the statement that we issue as a preamble to this wherever we publish it. But anything that we change, it's not going to be in effect until October or even later. So I feel like we can work to refine that over time, but then commit to a strong statement that the library can release this week during banned books week. Would that be amenable?
We're to author statement right now.
I mean, I don't know that it needs to be complicated. I can propose something and we can all yay or nay it.
Do you propose that, that you have a new format for resolutions so they all start with your mission and your values? Or is it just this specific one?
So we
rarely do resolutions to give that to.
And I also feel like I am not seeking to create guidelines for future resolutions. It's specific to this resolution. And I think we would need to see what the preamble looks like to respond to it. So I think what I'm saying is that's October's conversation, in my opinion. Karen can take all the feedback and then we can be presented with a new version in October. And would we be willing to quickly agree on the key words of a draft statement that we can then entrust Karen and team to execute?
So you're talking about getting a statement out now, and then we'll deal with the rest of it next. Can we yay and nay over email?
No, we're not allowed to make decisions via email. However, as I recall, we missed a meeting and we're delayed.
You can approve. It has to be a unanimous approval by email? No, you can do, it's limited. There can be no discussion. So there could be a vote, but there cannot be any discussion by email.
So, I mean, she could write something and say, do you agree with this or not? And if that were, whatever the word is, legal or whatever, we would say yes or no.
We could do that.
Would it have to be everybody on the board or a certain percentage of the board? Or?
Unanimous, and we could do that, but also there's no rush. Once we pass this week,
yeah,
there's no time, you know what I mean? Okay. There's no time limitation.
And the rush this week would be simply to get something out in the next few days because it's banned books week?
Because it's banned books week, to make sure that people see that the library is acknowledging banned books week and that we have a definitive stance on, the banning of books.
So if we had your statement out, we could, when we visit it again next meeting, we can still tweak it to fit it into our final resolution, right?
Yes, and then the resolution would simply go on file and then potentially go on the website. It would really serve as a formalization of what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So then I think what you need is for me to either withdraw the motion or to table it.
Yes.
Which would you like to do? Because I don't know if you have do you want to do a press release or what?
Tabling is easier to do in our system, in our minutes system.
But that means then that maybe you are not able to
update it.
The press.
Can I ask for clarification? Are folks opposed to this verbiage? Because this English is a third language for me. I don't find this very complicated to read or follow as well. I'm curious, are we talking about amending or putting a pause on this language right here versus something else?
We're talking about not releasing this as our statement right now because we can't agree on the specifics of the language, and any changes will have to come in the next meeting. So even striking providing exceptional library service, which is operational and unnecessary, would require a change that would come in the next packet. So we'd either have to approve it as is or wait
Right.
until October. So that's why we're recommending.
So my question is, if we approve it, is anybody opposed to approving it as is, knowing that, we could probably tweak it to be a little bit more specific? But we just don't have time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would be opposed.
You would be.
I think we have all the time in the world. I'm
Yeah.
Right.
not sure why we're rushing.
Exactly. And I do appreciate what you said. I think it is simple to read, but I think there is sometimes a formal language across some members of the community. So to your point, Chloe, the minute certain people see a word whereas, they might assume that that's already not going to be accessible to them. So that's why I think I'm advocating for some form of, like, some statement that gets our message across in a simpler fashion.
We'll still be able to get a statement for Banned Books Week while we're still dealing with this. Right.
That's my hope.
I mean, we are in the middle of Banned Books Week. To be
Yeah.
honest, I don't know how much traction we're getting necessarily. I think, I don't know if it's necessary to spend too much time working on a statement as opposed to having a better resolution that includes a preamble and tighter, stronger language. But this is absolutely your decision.
I mean, the beauty of this is everyone can weigh in. So I think we should start pushing towards action, but I will say that even something as small as whether or not we make a statement in the middle of Banned Books Week gets scrutinized by our community. They want to know that we are engaged and that we are in tune with the national conversation that is aligned with our library's mission, scope, etc. So I feel like it is indeed important that we say something about Banned Books Week. For a library like ours to be silent at a time like this, when it is a matter of consequence, I think is slightly irresponsible. So I advocate for some form of statement. It could be a simple sentence that says the Rochester Public Library is committed to upholding the intellectual freedom of our community members and maintaining access to a versatile collection of materials. It could be as simple as that. It could go on our Instagram. It could go on our website. But I'm advocating for a statement, and then we can refine this resolution with time so that it can be the perfect resolution we desire.
So do you have a statement?
Whatever I just said.
Write that
Let
down.
me clarify something though. Can we vote on that statement now? Because it's not on the agenda originally?
I think
Because we've already approved the agenda.
I can ask you to amend your motion, and it could allow us to draft a small statement and table this discussion to October.
Let me try to make this easier.
Yes, please.
Why don't we as a board simply direct the library director to put out a statement in support of intellectual freedom? Process.
I might have whispered it would be stronger at the stage. I might have whispered that.
But I don't think we can do that.
Could I throw out maybe another compromise where I know that you have all spent time thinking about this and how you wanted to write it? Could we approve this language and then enable the director to abbreviate pieces of the language in Instagram, in social media?
And what I've heard a little bit too is perhaps a recommendation from the board for the library to focus on this, engaging with the community, perhaps an updated website or updated marketing to youth, just so more people within the use the library are aware of this commitment. But I haven't heard a lot of real dissent of just the motion to approve this freedom to read resolution, and perhaps a brief statement from Karen or Antonia as board president to the press of, with National Books Week, we support the ability to read and all that.
I agree. I do worry about a little bit of spiral if we try to approve this. For example, one of the comments I was going to make if we discussed this was that whenever the library claims something, I am adamant that we prove that we're going to back it up. So when we say that our goal is for community members to find themselves reflected in our materials, my next question would be, okay, do we have a process or some sort of formalized way in which we ensure that any community member who does not see themselves reflected in our collection can come forward and make sure that's rectified. And if we don't have that, we cannot claim that that is something that we're doing. So I don't want to go into the spiral of nitpicking at language because I just worry that we won't. However, I can be overruled. So tell me if everyone feels like they want to move towards a motion to approve this, which is already open, or if people are feeling like we want to amend our motion, table refinement of this for later, and focus on a single statement.
Maybe it's time to call the question, and then that just solves the problem.
Okay,
Call the question.
thank you.
That means now you have to,
The-
all in favor of
Oh, you're
voting now.
question.
Yes.
I thought you were about to formally ask the question. All those in favor of tabling our resolution and issuing a statement
You have to go to the question that's already been asked.
with the,
Motion,
Right.
which is
Approving this,
approving this.
right?
where were you guys 6 years ago? Because I feel like we have never been as formalized. You people. All those in favor of approving this resolution as it sits, please say aye. All those opposed, nay? Nay? Wasn't that the motion for us to
Yes,
proceed with this?
people are not.
Correct.
All those abstaining, please, can we note abstentions? I'm just gonna go singly so we can get this recorded.
I think
Stephanie?
a bit more clarity, Antonio, with if we're approving this for the motion to approve this resolution, is that also with the caveat that there would be a statement by the board or something from Karen to the press that in relation to this?
Well, that would come next as a separate item because Stephanie's motion was to approve this.
That could be a friendly amendment.
Right.
Yeah,
Now that the question has been called, we're done with
Yeah,
discussing.
that's true.
yes.
Okay, I had another thought, but
So I'm going to go back to your motion, Stephanie, which is a motion to approve the resolution as it sits. And I'm going to go one by one, and please just note if you're aye, if you're nay, or if you're an abstention. Stephanie?
Aye.
Holly? Aye.
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 Chloe?
Aye.
Rowie?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Antonia? Nay. So the motion passes and it is approved as it is. Are there any friendly amendments to the motion?
It would be a new item now because the amendment's been passed. But you could either direct the library director now to bring it back to us as you'd like to see amended for the future, right? Because the resolution is good for the day it's sent out. It's not policy, right? And it does meet the issue that was brought up. I heard behind me that they wanted the resolution from the board, not from the director. So the director can now still summarize it, and provide a summary on
So
top of
is it, would that be the preamble? There's not going to be a preamble for
Correct.
this then?
Not until we,
As is.
next time.
And when do we touch it next time?
It could be next month.
It sounds like you should,
But there's been no motion brought forward to.
Right,
So we can bring this up again
right.
correct.
and we can amend it if we wish. I would suggest that. At least we get this out, right?
Can I make a motion though for it to be refined, to strip the operational language as Holly requested? Is there interest? I just want to ask before wasting our time and
I
bringing
think
it up.
this discussion started off because of the whereas thing. And we were worried about its attraction or non-attraction to the common man. I think that's what started this whole discussion on. And I don't know if we want to keep that or we never did really resolve that.
Well, people agreed to the amendment as is, so I think
Yeah.
that's been voted to be kept. However, I think Holly's point about stripping out some of the operational language to make it more succinct, along with another point that I agreed with on making it slightly stronger was worthwhile, so.
Yeah, I would just direct the library director to consider our conversation and bring us back a refined for next.
Right.
Right.
Yep, okay, do we have to vote on that?
No.
No.
You can give her any direction.
That's great. What if we disagreed on direction?
Then we probably have a policy that says what we do. I haven't read it yet.
I don't think we have one, to be honest.
I suspect we do. is most, or we defer to the cities.
So you're
Right.
asking as a whole, so you can do it
Right.
one off, no, but as a whole, give me all the direction you want, but as long as it's clear.
Well,
So I'm gonna bring back a refined resolution, and which is fine. It's so exciting, we're doing it twice for the press. And I'll include a preamble and
Can you
make it
send
more
it-
user-friendly.
Can you send it electronically so that we could just all vote on it if it was done? Never mind. If that's gonna be complicated.
I don't think we can
Okay.
vote on it electronically, right? It would have to be in person.
Yeah, it has to all, it's very limited. Our advice is to do very little voting
Right.
by
But outside your public
email.
meeting.
It's different when it's a committee and it's approving to move forward to a full board, because to be as transparent as possible, it's best to bring it all to the board, so.
Got you. Between the lack of electronic communication and our learning experience with Robert, I feel like we should all get powdered wings at the end of the session. This has been painful, but painful is learning. All right. Are we comfortable closing out new business and moving on to old business? Are there any other concerns or questions?
Do you feel that you have a clear,
I feel like I have a clear-ish, we want a stronger resolution that is more directed, more friendlier language, whereas in some bullet points, preamble. I think I got, did I miss anything?
No, it's great.
Thank you. And I have to again reiterate that I appreciate this is the conversation that we're having and not a conversation on how can we prevent people from reading books. I am so grateful, and our team is really grateful that we have a board that really truly supports intellectual freedom. We are very lucky to have you representing our community and fighting for people's access to information.
Thank you, Karen. So now we have old business and we are running quickly to our library space needs. So Karen did provide, well, the team provided information that will fuel the joint library board and city council study session, which includes a history of space needs, past work. So has everyone?
I brought something for show and tell.
It's pretty thick.
Buddy.
It is roughly a ream of paper.
If you want to something funny though, Erin and I have actually had to read all of those pages over the course of 2 years. So
that goes back a
So
ways.
this does go back to 1995. So this does include, actually even pre-95, I need to correct the dates on the cover. Back to the Rolf report from 1990 or 1988, that the building program for this building, which was initially larger than what the building ended up being. So this goes back a very long time. I am sure there are things that we missed, but we really racked our brains to include all of the things.
And what year does it end, the material?
The very last thing that's in here is the update to the building program from 2020, as well as an update to cost estimates for operations, including some cost estimations for if there was a branch, correct me if I'm wrong.
That was from the first time, not from 2020. 2020, I think the last thing
Okay.
there should actually be the proposal of how to the post bulletin. It did not go through.
Yes.
That should be the last one.
So that one is in there too. And then our timeline that we had included in our newsletter in 2021.
Would this be available somewhere in the library that I'll park my car and I'll come in and I'll look through it? I will.
So our hope really is to have a dedicated web page that includes this information so that it's, because obviously nobody wants, some might want all of these,
Except for Nick.
but, and it's information that community members are curious about and would like to see. And And I am glad we had the charge of putting this in one place because it really helped us to gather things into one place.
I wanted to note that the draft outline is really well done. I feel like it really highlighted the essential critical information that the board needs. There's one thing that I saw that was missing on number 3 that I wanted to highlight, which is vocal community voices speaking on accessibility. So that's one of the limitations of our building. So I just think that might be an addition. But
thank you.
I was really impressed with how you guys managed to summarize that entire tone on that one page. So good job.
So we are compliant with ADA accessibility, right?
Not entirely.
I mean, yeah, the building was built in 1985, so.
So there are things that need to be done.
Yes.
Regardless of.
I expect some of it's grandfathered, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we're
not required
to do, but we certainly would do.
The code as
Yeah.
when the building was built.
Right. But
If you can make it better, then make it better.
great.
And we have been working with city administration as far as what are some components that city council would perhaps be interested in, getting some insight from city administration. And they stressed highlighting the value of the library and then the important needs that we have right now and just a general status update of the library, which I think we've started to include in this outline. But other thoughts on anything that we need?
I did have it.
Mr. Or should include?
I'm seeking input from the new board members because this conversation's in November and I want to make sure everyone feels equipped, to attend and be able to participate in the conversation. Well,
I think that's why I need to come in and look through that. I really want to come in and see it. But would I contact you to see that?
Yeah. Do you want this paper?
But you don't want me to
Are
take
you
it home.
gonna have
You want to keep it,
Are you going to be able to just send us an electronic copy of it?
Yeah, I can send you electronic.
That'd be great.
the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean,
Really?
it's a big giant file.
Yeah, but I still might want to come in and use my fingers, turn the
I
page.
might actually want to read it.
I'm a nerd, I'll look at it.
I will come in. I'll contact you.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Holly.
Do you want board members to attend the study session?
Yes, and so I do believe I sent out the appointment. That week is our regular board meeting week, but this is a city council study session. So those who could attend, that would be great. And I'm assuming, I've been running under the assumption that we would still meet for a regular library board meeting that week as well. So
I have a question that might.
double header.
But I thought about it. If we all attend and there's quorum, representation there, is that problematic?
It is not because it is an open meeting.
Okay.
And
You
no
wouldn't make
decisions
any
are made in
decisions.
Study session.
Right.
Thank you. Even more important. So you're in a public space and you're not making a decision. You're there to inquire, to ask questions, to just get information. And that is legal to do because you will have people there also watching you.
So I'm assuming for next month, the staff will put together sort of a summary of what they think the key issues are that you should articulate to the city council members, correct?
Yeah.
So that we are all on, because it's important, I think, if we go in there, that we're all on the same page. Because if we're talking about 6 different things, then the city council is going to hear that we're not ready or prepared. And they're going to just put us off and do whatever.
First question is, well, what do you need the space for?
Right.
So we all need to know the answer to that
Yep.
question.
And I felt like the draft outline really framed up that conversation. So it's basically that our library was undersized to start. We've needed space consistently. We have access issues. There are limitations to our current building that cannot really be addressed without great cost. And we also need more information. So I think that, some guiding notes would be helpful, but I would say that this does a really good job of framing up that
But we have to
conversation.
be very clear. What do we need the space for? Asking for more space is not going to help the city council.
Collection size and layout are limited. We need to address accessibility issues. There's not enough space for people. There's not enough on-site storage. So
None of
programming, exactly. So that is really captured. It's really captured here.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the outline was very well done. It's what I would have written down if I was doing so.
So one of the suggestions as well was with that important needs, again, this is from administration, is what would potential options look like? Status quo, doing nothing. What would that look like? And what would that paint that picture, I guess? What would the library and expanding book boxes, which we haven't even implemented one. So I'm struggling with how much we can even project. What would it be with branch libraries, and what would be almost like a pros and cons list of potential options that are not fully investigated. So I'm struggling with the best way to share and articulate that really well.
For branches, you know there's going to be added overhead, right? Because you're going to have to staff two places, you're going to have to maintain two places. So when you look at different options, at least provide, like, based on these assumptions, whatever those are, these are some pros or some cons, right? I mean, the branches, they're easier to put in place. You can put them a lot of places. They might be collaborative with others, but they're going to cost you more. They're going to reduce your staff expertise, or you're going to have to, double, obviously, those kind of things.
We should also probably have some kind of a time frame that we're dealing with. We want to be able to do this, during the next 10 or 20 years. We're not just talking about our situation today.
I do want to clarify here though, because I do recall at our last meeting, we discussed making this kind of a formalization of a collaboration between city council and the library to address and discuss these concerns. And we did talk about specifically not coming in with options and not trying to drive the conversation to options because it's very premature. So is the focus of this conversation going to be, here are our concerns, here are our needs, can we collaborate moving forward? Or is there now going to be the inclusion of different options?
You could also pose a question of this, we will need more space. What path do we need to follow to get this through council administration? You could simply ask them.
I feel like we need as a team, what is our direction that we should be doing and spending our time on as an option?
Has the city council given you any direction at all?
So the city administration has been given us that a little bit of that direction. What are some of the options and what would be some of the pros or cons, knowing that we would need much more information.
But they do want options presented at this meeting.
That was some of the guidance from city administration. So,
okay.
super easy, simple problem, as we can see.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, if there are no questions, then we can move on to the director's informational item.
Great, so really happy. You'll notice the permit is not here tonight, but we're happy to have Kate here. Kate just started, is our new data and outcome specialist, and we'll be doing a lot of board work. So you'll see Kate's name a lot. And if you do need anything between now and the middle of October, then it's Kate or myself that you can reach out to. Super grateful that she was here and that we were able to do minutes and post our agenda without her here. We were a little nervous about that. I wanted to give you an update on our ECF, the Connected Chromebook Program. Remember, that was the 1,000 Chromebooks. We received the funding from the federal government, $619,000. That funding has run out for the connectivity part of the Chromebooks. So as of yesterday, all of the Chromebooks that are in circulation are only available to connect with Wi-Fi. And we were hoping that we would get additional funding, and we not received additional funding. Our application is still sitting there, but they are prioritizing rural areas and schools, and it is unclear if there will be any additional funding. Next month, the administrative team, we are getting together for a half-day retreat to develop a more kind of a systematic approach to how we're doing our programs and services. We're really starting to have to do some good prioritization. Reminder, we are still down to staff people. And so we've really, the combination of that and moving to the 7-day schedule has really kind of changed how we are doing things. And it really has, it's taken a lot to get used to that and covering for that. So we're really working with that staff capacity and how to best plan and how to best say yes to things and prioritize the things. We were able to bring back the art room. So if you walked past the youth area, there's art all over the place. A lot of our youth services team were staffing the bookmobile this summer, or not the bookmobile, the book bike this summer, the book bike and art cart. And now that that's ended, then they are able to do bring back a little bit of the youth programming, including the discovery part, the art room, and then our first in-person story time in a long time they were able to do now that book bike season is over. So yeah, so those are some of the big highlights. Any questions on those or anything that I shared in the board memo?
I do have a question. What is the expense related to the connectivity on the Chromebooks?
Oh, Steve, what is it per device per month? We do get a discounted rate, but the management and the turning off, when you're think about connecting your own cell phone and you're turning it off and turning it on, there's some staff time involved. So when you've got 1,000 of them checked out to different people, when you're talking about 400 or 500 folks who have reattested as per the grant requirements that we were last paying for, it's what?
$19 and some change per device per month.
So it adds up when you're talking about 400 or 500. The bill looks like this each month for T-Mobile. It's a big expenditure when you have all of them on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the 2 vacant library positions, where are we with that?
So the city council did meet on Monday to approve the preliminary levy, and that was approved. There was a comment from one of the city council members who approved it, but still does not feel that we need those positions returned back to the library, but it was approved by the entire council. So we're hopeful that those will be unfrozen, but until the budget is formally adopted in December, we're not making any plans until that adoption happens. So.
There's 2 positions.
Those are both librarian positions, librarian 1 positions, which has greater flexibility across the organization to staff all of the desks, including the reference desk, and plan programs and do the important collection development work. And I one question folks have asked is, okay, well, how does that, are they specifically programming librarians? Are they, because it's affecting programming? And really, when you're talking about the needs of the library, keeping the desks staffed 7 days a week, and then, maintaining that collection and doing all of those behind the scenes things that need to get done, it's the programming that ends up kind of falling off, unfortunately. But we'll still want books and people at the desks to help, so.
So the flexibility of those positions is a plus, in terms of arguing for funding.
Right, thank you very much for the update. And we're now going to move on to sharing strengths. I'm actually really excited for the social worker pilot update.
Yeah.
So I'm Sarah Catalita, I'm the head of reference, and the social worker is in my division. She started, Allison Carpenter is our social worker who we hired. So she's a contract employee. She's employed by Family Service Rochester. This is a project that we have been working on for years. When I started at the library in 2018, we had done some reporting to kind of justify the needs for this at the library. We are very grateful to the foundation for helping to pilot this and working with Family Services Rochester. So she has supervisors who are actual social workers as well. She started at the end of November of 2021 and is contracted through the end of this year. So the snapshot that we have that's on the screen here was our 6 months report because we also received a grant through Rochester Area Foundation that we were able to pilot part of this project from some of that funding as well. So this is kind of a snapshot of how things have gone. She has just gotten busier as the year has gone by. She is 0.75 FTE, so she works 30 hours. 25 of those hours are dedicated service hours at the library that she is available here to work with customers. She is here one evening a week and one Saturday a month. She has become very popular with people. We've tried to track also at the reference desk when we're working with customers. Like, hey, did you know we had a social worker here? We have somebody who obviously has some needs that we're not able to address through the library. We let her know about the services that Allison is able to offer, and she can connect people with some services in the community. The barriers that we see is that she sees is kind of reflective of things that we see serving the community as well. We have people with housing needs, financial needs, medical needs, legal needs, mental health and chemical dependency issues. People in the community are struggling. So, and sometimes it's hard for them to kind of make those connections or get started on a process. So that's why she is here. So we are very grateful to have her. She works in conjunction with staff a lot. She has done a lot of trainings for staff as well, and organized training with some other community partners. So we as library staff know more about some of the resources that we have that we can offer to the community as well. Any questions?
I hate to end this on a downer, but I will mention that funding for this pilot is running out, so it will end at the end of this year, and we what that means for the next year. We really tried to look at different options and see if there are any partners that wanted to come forward, but it just.
Where did the funding come from for now?
So it was kind of cobbled together funding. So we did get support again from Rochester Area Foundation, as well as the Rochester Public Library Foundation. And then we had some operating dollars, a small portion that we were able to put towards it. Yeah.
That's not possible again or continuous?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of cobbling, so.
What are, out of curiosity, also just for you as a note, not many comments, just pride, so I really am grateful for this one pager. What were the metrics that we established when we introduced this program? Because I'm curious as to, are those metrics going to be shared with the broader community so that we can, one, seek potential partners and also encourage expansion of these services across our communities?
And the outcomes are kind of outlined here, the number of people who were supported, finding the services helpful, how many requests for assistance that we had, and then the staff training that was provided as well.
And were those the outcomes that we established when we decided that we would have the role? Okay. And have we met what we anticipated or projected? Like, is that what we expected?
Yes, okay. I'm very, very pleased with that. It had been modified several times. The money from Rochester Area Foundation was actually approved in 2020, like just right around the start of COVID. So things were pushed back. We were also going to work with the Parks Department, and then they weren't able to do the same level of partnership because their funding was cut as well during 2020. So things have been modified several times. We also had a grant application in 2019 that was unsuccessful, but we used a lot of that planning work for this current grant that we received.
So right now, there's no possibilities for refunding that jump out at the moment?
No, not.
Have we been looking for other funding? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we try and share our story when we're working with partners. We haven't had anyone working on grants. We didn't have data and outcomes specialist position. That was open for a long period of time. And so there is a little bit of lag in that. I mean, there's not a staff capacity for doing a lot of the grant searching, but definitely with the partners that we've been working with, asking if there are funding streams that they're aware of, and we're unable to.
Can I clarify? You meant, is Allison an MSW or no?
Yes.
She is? Okay.
Is this something you can bring up on November 14th?
We could, if this is something that we would want to do in lieu of space. I mean, I want to make sure that we have the right focus. And I think there's,
I want to note that I have so many feelings. My first feeling is I'm absolutely impressed and proud of this program, and I want to make sure that we are able to provide support if possible. And two, I want to make sure that we're also focused on the directive and scope of the library. And that really is about access to materials. So while I see value in the program, I think we need to be really conscious about how we use our time with City Council and focus on the space needs. And in saying that, I also feel like if we can find ways to get partners that are interested in expanding access to these essential services in our space, that can be something that we do. Like I really do support and advocate for that. So I just want people to know that I'm saying it not because I don't approve or support the program, but because we also need to be really rooted in our directive and mission, which is access to information. So that does need to be priority.
If most social services in Rochester are meant to come through the county, would this be a discussion to have with the county? I know that this is a city organization and sometimes it is difficult to get the two to marry in a convenient way, but as this conversation we've had with the county.
and we've been having some very initial conversations, I think with most government entities. I mean, there's not an unlimited pool of funding, so.
And the expense is the salary, is there more than the salary?
It's really the contract. So it's a contracted, we have been contracting with Family Service Rochester, so it covers salary and any oversight that's needed to.
I think there's some technical pieces as well, like the computer support through the county, but it's mainly salary.
I wonder if, I'm probably speaking out of turn, but I know the foundation has some funds, if there's a way to extend this while we look for other opportunities, perhaps, to fill a gap. That might be worth a discussion at that board meeting. I just think this is exactly our community, this is what we need to be supporting. It's really just disappointing that it's going to end in December.
Yeah, I do think it's aligned with the mission of providing information, like very clearly providing information. It doesn't have to be a book. That's very important reference material right there.
No, when I understand and agree with that, I just know one thing that the library runs into is that we are a source of support for the community at large. And there's a lot of requests that are constantly made of the library. And so we do have to be really intentional about what we're going to ask for and where we're going to put our resources, because we can't address everything. That being said, my point about that was that we need to seek partners. That's the most effective way of doing it. What the library's role in this is extension of services by providing our space, given how much of our population feels safe and secure here. So if we were going to fund that position, that would be a really important board conversation around what do we think our scope entails and is provision of services in this way part of our scope? So that would be another conversation, I would say. So I don't know if people are seeking action from this update, because I think it's a great sharing strengths, but I can say that there's a craving for information on how are we seeking partnerships, and are there interested partners who would allow us to continue to provide this program?
Karen or Sarah, can you remind me again, the funding that was cobbled together? How much in total was that you?
I want to say roughly 103,000. It's not here, and I'm not the numbers person. Let's say between 100 and 110,000. And I know it's somewhere.
1 year? That's for the year?
Yeah, that's for the year.
And if you remember, when we went through our budget a few years ago, when we were trying to understand if we could afford to waive the fees we were levying against our community when we had overdue and late materials, which was built into our budget, it was really hard to scrape even $10,000 together into our budget. So that's why I feel like I want to just note that partnership is going to be really critical to the success, continuation of this engagement, unless we choose to reorg our priorities.
It certainly is a distinctive characteristic of this library. I mean, I've never known another library that has this service. I'm sure there are, but
I'm glad you said that, because it really is we're not the first. There's a map that I can actually share with you of other libraries that are doing this, but it is becoming more, there is more awareness happening within the social services world. There's a journal article that a friend shared with me that happens to be a social worker about how there needs to be more research in this space, because it is a natural fit about being a space where people feel like they can walk in. There's no stigma attached coming into the library, and they can get the services that they need. So there definitely is this, I guess I don't want to say it's a trend, because that kind of undervalues how impactful this is, but this is something that is like trending in libraries. So,
given the passion, though, that people on the board feel about this, we could do something ourselves to support it. We could cobble together you're making me want to use the word. We could put together like a board session where we focus on helping with grant applications. Like, I'm sure there's ways to get involved and support this. Would you like to share that information with the board if you have it?
Are we being missional or operational? I do want to be careful.
I'm not speaking about this being part of our board directive and scope. I'm saying there are unique individual opportunities to support the program, because I'm sure there's ways that we can help advance conversation in the community, seeking partners, or I just don't want people to look so defeated and feel that we're going to walk away thinking that this ends. If people are passionate, like, feel free to connect and help and support in some way.
I think it is one of those things where we're trying to better right set what we do. I mean, and this is the whole point of our half-day retreat in October with our leadership team, is really getting better at defining those core competencies of the things that we do really, really well, that others, if we stop doing them, then they wouldn't happen. And kind of back to your point, providing those traditional library services, what would we give up by over focusing on this? Does it affect some of the other things that we're doing that if we stop doing them, it's not going to happen?
I mean, is there a desire to reassess our core competencies and understand, I don't know, where our focus and our resources go? Is there like a craving for that from the board? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just speaking for myself.
I mean, that could be a future informational item, because I do need to remember we have a relatively new board, and maybe some sort of overview of where our money goes could be helpful. But I just want to make sure people feel like if there's an opportunity or desire to advance more conversation around this, that we give you the opportunity to do so.
do you want to bring up your point earlier though about losing the forest for the trees or whatever that is? I mean, this is something I think people are emotionally connecting to, but the bigger way you need to use this right now, it sounds like, is this space issue. Seems to be the big thing. Am I correct in my understanding from you, the director, that that's where you want us? Okay.
I mean, that's supporting what we missionally have decided to be this, space. And I mean, it's in very much in our strategic plan to be, providing this space, to provide resources and information and a collection and spaces to gather for people. So yes, thank you for that clarification.
But, maybe there's a way to approach it that we wouldn't have to choose. The way that it's approached, I mean, we don't necessarily have to bring this to the city council at the same time that we need to bring it, the issue of the space.
And one thing that I would say that I am feeling challenged or conflicted is we still don't even have our full library staff, and I'm fully advocating to be fully back to our pre-pandemic staffing levels, and so it is challenging. We want to be able to do all of the things, but we are limited, so.
And this is a service that is not typically provided by the library. Social service would be provided by the county. So I'm having an internal struggle with that.
Yeah.
I'm not struggling. I think we should find a way to do it. I get that we don't have it in the budget, and I'm not advocating for that. I just think there's got to be another way.
Well, I think it's a partnership issue.
Yeah.
We just have to figure out who's the right partner to work with us. And
they're out there.
Yeah, there are. It's just a matter of convincing them that they want to use our space. So
one day we might not even have to cobble things together anymore.
I think I'm not understanding though what the plan is to address the next year. I think I'm not understanding. This is a great strength and what's happening next year.
And right now, we don't have a plan for next year. I mean, when funding runs out, and unfortunately that happens also with, the ECF or the Chromebooks. And it doesn't mean that we have stopped exploring options. It doesn't mean we've stopped having conversations. We are absolutely, open to ideas, or if someone comes forward with this grant that would completely fund this, then it would be something that we would look at and explore. So it's not like we're not open. Sometimes when funding runs out.
And worst case scenario in my head that's playing out is if it runs out, but the resources that the library can provide, like where to go, those types of things will still exist, right? So if folks still walk through these doors, it's not like they're just ignored. There's other places that the library can direct them to go in the community that can help. It is sad, however, though, because sometimes transportation, I always think the transportation piece of it, how do you get to some of those places? The library is so central, which goes back to that point of we need a new library space, and where will that be, or what would that look like? So
I'm just thinking of some ideas. Do we have a Ulster County kiosk here?
We do,
yes. Okay,
yes.
So that's good. Have you thought about like Decorah, Luther College, where prospective social workers need an internship program?
So we have had conversations, just very early with I don't think it was St. Mary's. I think it was Winona State. But we have not had and there's still a piece. The thing that we're doing right now is we're contracting. So we're not doing oversight because that is not in our wheelhouse. We're not needing to provide, I don't want to say we're providing nothing in kind. I mean, definitely we have some staff time, but it is much more limited the way that it is set up now. And I do worry about capacity of oversight of something new. I do I think it's interesting bringing up foundation. I mean, even doing a second year, I think, as crossover members of the foundation board, it might be worth bringing to the foundation. But
It's hard to say
it's
no.
hard.
It's really hard to say no when you see such valuable programs.
Yeah. But our conversations haven't stopped. I do want to reiterate that message. I wish I had a solution. I don't want to not be transparent, that there's some great and good stuff, but there's also some not so great stuff, and I want to be transparent about it.
Yeah. I appreciate the conversation.
All I want for my birthday is the social worker budget. If I make that wish on my birthday cake, it will happen.
Do we have any other questions specific to the social worker pilot update? I do want to tell you thank you, though. I really appreciate the time put into the update and in the program management. Next, we have questions. Any questions before we adjourn? If we have no questions, then we can officially adjourn this meeting. Can we be disconnected? So all in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any dissenters? Any abstentions? Hearing none, this meeting is officially adjourned.